to right now has never been heard before. And there it goes. It's only 90 seconds. There it comes. Again. Maybe you missed it the first time. But this is brand new. This is something I'm working on. It's another take on Boxcar Headed East. So, of course, right before it was time for me to go here at 7 p.m., I hit a button on the mouse, and all the video that I had lined up when I came back into the studio on this platform, it was all gone. So, I'm still going to show the videos. Don't worry. Thank you for spending some of your Friday with me. Appreciate it. Save Michale Graves online performance is tomorrow. (3 p.m. Eastern Time. There's the graphic. There's still room if you want to get a ticket, you want to get access to it. www.officialmichaelgraves.com. In the rush of things getting back up, I put the graphic up that doesn't have the website on it. But it's officialmichaelgraves.com, www.officialmichaelgraves.com. There's a link on the website. The outpouring of support has been overwhelming. This week has been so crazy. Leading up to, once again, me wanting to come on here. And tonight's going to be special. I'm going to show you never before seen footage of January 5th and January 6th. I'm going to talk about what I referred to a couple days ago as how I got here. How I got here from all the way from the beginning. When I was on the last tour, I was telling the story of when I was very young, wanting to not be a musician, but wanting to be a preacher. In the beginning, I wanted to be a priest, but I always wanted to get married, so. And then how my heart changed. So I'm going to lead you from there all the way through and talk about my association with and the Proud Boys and the events of January 5th and January 6th, because I'm asked about it a lot, because that's how we got here. That's how I got here. And it's a hard question to answer with just a couple of sentences. At some point, I'll get good at it, but you need everything in context. When you take everything in context over the course of my career, over the course of my life, and you just focus on these events, you can arrive at your own conclusion, which is what I'm going to try to do tonight best that I can, and incorporate a lot of video into it as well. But first, again, thank you very much, everybody. Well, before I get to that, One Man Roadshow, let me just these are like programming notes. One Man Roadshow. The dates are up on the website, but some of them might not have been edited. So there's a bunch of shows that have been canceled. Buffalo was canceled. The Rooster in Gastonia, North Carolina was canceled. Chapel Hill, North Carolina, Hangar 1819 is canceled. The show that was supposed to be on the 30th of March, I don't know, it's probably not up there, but that one was canceled. There was one that was coming up. I think it's it might be Rochester that was canceled, but so I'll get to that as well. But One Man Roadshow, the dates are up. We're starting to get ticket links as well. That's still being booked. Well, let me take this down. Again, if you're like the first time you've ever checked me out online doing this sort of thing, I'm the cameraman, I'm the light guy, I'm the producer. I'm pushing all sorts of buttons, and I'm trying to focus my mind as best I can on the substance of what I'm trying to do. And in the meantime, not bore you with all the other crap because of... All right, so I'll just do it. All right, so One Man Roadshow, booking at officialmichaelgraves.com. Booking at officialmichaelgraves.com if you want to know anything booking. If you have questions about private shows, about public shows, about speaking, about performing, whatever, you go to booking at officialmichaelgraves.com. All right. Thank you very, very much. This week has been insane. I woke up a couple of days ago thinking I was going to have a very different day. And I went downstairs and my wife and I had a conversation about finances. And the bank account was literally negative like $200 and something because the rent check went through and there wasn't enough money in there. I'm walking the tightrope of integrity by being so transparent about this. I value very much as my privacy as I can hold on to. It's very, very difficult for me to be this guy. But certainly the love coming from it is amazing, which is what I'm trying to get to. So negative 200 and something because the rent check went through. So how did I get here? Now, again, this isn't the first time that this has happened. Like I'm a month to month sort of person. It's been that way for a couple of years now. So, we'll get to what's different. But I want to thank a lot of you. And for I don't know who wants to be called out and who doesn't, but I got to tell you, thank you. Paul, I thank you very much. My goodness. Jason, JB, thank you very, very much. I was looking at old pictures of us with George and shooting Bruiser, and JV was sending me pictures that were blowing my mind. I got to send them to you. Oh, my goodness. Debbie and Curtis, wonderful. Thank you very, very much. Andy and Brenda, God bless you. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's see, Nicole. My goodness. God bless you. Thank you. If I don't get to your name, like if I don't, it's just, everybody, all of you. Certainly some people have stepped up more than I could, and I shouldn't say stepped up. That's messed up. I'll get to it. Okay. Andy and your family, thank you. God bless you. Thank you for the messages, for everything. And Brian, my goodness, you and your family, I appreciate you very, very much. You're a blessing, all of you. Christopher, and everybody that I haven't mentioned, everybody that's on my team right now that understands what's going on and is really it makes it motivates them to do what they're doing and to stick around and to put their necks on the line and to help me financially and spiritually and every which way. Thank you very much. It's very difficult for me. George, thank you as well. George, I don't know if you're listening or watching. It's really hard for me to be this guy. I'm usually on the other side of this equation. I was always helping other people, And so what's different? How have I gotten to save Michale Graves? What's different was that it's becoming like now back in the day when I wasn't doing the acoustic stuff, there would be the band and it would just roll that way. I would play acoustic shows. I would do acoustic tours and supplement off of the big band tours that we were doing, the full on band with Loki and Howie and all the guys, Adam, and all the other dudes that played with me. But mainly those dudes, because, when that ended, a lot of other things went with it. A lot of other things sank along with that. And, so that's what's different. It's the ability to work. It's the ability to work. And make, and I know a lot of people in this situation, especially guys like me, who put it all on the line for our music and our art and our love for being on the road. Well, there might be, if Loki was listening right now, and Arturo knows, and JV, a lot of them, they're like, yeah, Michael loves the road. So all he does is say he wants to throw himself out the friggin' window. And it's true. I get out on the road, and at least a lot of the times I was miserable. But anyway, putting it all on the line for what we love and what we're striving for musically and playing, these guys that they love to play. And when we get to it as well, I've been thinking that I don't, when the guys left, when Loki and Howie and Adam left, and everyone else, that came out publicly and said that they were done with me, it's a shame that they had to arrive at that point and make that decision, because they know I'm not some sort of hateful white supremacist, anti-Semitic lunatic. They know who I am, but they were, because of the circumstances which we're going to go through tonight, with never before seen footage from January 5th and January 6th, and other bits and pieces that I've been putting together for a larger documentary short film like The Blackness in the Forest was. And there's footage from that too that I'll show you tonight that will bring us through our fever dream of a musical career that is my life and my career. But when the stink came on to me as bad as it did in 2020, building from 2018, a brief reprieve from about 2017 until like 2015 or so, You know, I'll bring you through it. But thank you, all of you. I see your comments. I'm gonna. I'll get to those when I'm done, because I don't want to sit on here for 3 hours, even though I probably could, but I might. So I'm just gonna take my time through all of this. I'm so upset that I dumped before, man. All my stuff on my board is just gone. I went to move, and I hit the side mouse button, and just gone, baby, gone. Also, if you are going to be, if you're gonna if you're gonna be on if you're gonna attend the motherfucking Save Michale Graves live online tomorrow, in the comments section, let me know what you want to hear. I'm gonna play some, like I said, deep cuts, some stuff that's never been heard before. But let me know what specifically you want to hear. Some of you have reached out, and let me know. Let me know what you want to hear. Save Michale Graves. All right. Let's see. Where do I want to go first? I should probably... I have lots of things that I'm going to read. God, I hope I don't hit some crazy button. Let me put this down while I do this. Lord. You know, also, one day, the dream is to be in a studio and have people, you know, actually helping do some of these things. And there'll be other voices that will be able to chime in, you know. Fucking puppets are going to jump up and start talking. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be like Pee-wee's Pee-wee's Playhouse. Just the Michale Graves show is going to be insane. Insane. But I have all sorts of things that I'm going to read for you tonight. About punk rock. Things that I wrote. I don't think I need this anymore. Let me just queue up. I'm going to queue up this video. Okay. And in the meantime, once again, I'm going to play you what I've been working on. It's a new version of... I hear my son talking downstairs. It's a new version of Boxcar Headed East. I'm going to queue up this video. Stand by. All right, let's see. Oh, it is. It's there. Okay. All right, it is there. All right, this is something that I put together that originally aired on censored TV. Also, before I go on with this, I got to tell you that all the opinions that might come out of my mouth are my opinions. They're not anybody that I work with right now. Or in the past. These are mine. Okay. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, I don't know how far they're going to let me go. It's not like I'm going to go crazy or anything. I'm just saying, I don't know if I say like Proud Boys too many times that they're just going to cut they're going to cut the feed. I don't know. So I'm just giving you the heads up on YouTube. If they, for some reason, pull the stream, this is also it's on LinkedIn. And it's on X, Twitter. It's streaming on Twitter X, or whatever the kids are calling it nowadays. All right, here we go. All right, let's see. Make sure everything's up here. Okay, so this is something that I put together for the Radio Deadly show. I'm debating whether to read this to you first. No, I already started this, so I'm gonna give this to you.
At a young age.
Yeah. All right. Whoa. I gotta bring it back. Okay.
Before.
Hold on now. All right. So this, good. I can talk over it. It was on censored.tv. It was the Radio Deadly show. Before music, I wanted to be a pastor. I wanted to be a God man. When I was very, very young, the first thing I wanted to do was, I felt I had a calling to be a priest or a preacher, a man of God. And I felt that was my calling.
You wanted to inspire people, even at a young age.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. Yeah, you should do it now through your music.
My parents, my mom and dad always used to take my brother and my sisters to New York City around Christmas time. And I remember being very, very young. And we were in the city, and it was the first time I ever saw homeless people. And I remember that's all I could think about when I saw these homeless people on the streets. I had never seen that before. And then all of a sudden, the dream in my heart changed. All right. So I've told that story a whole bunch of times on stage, and then I'll play a bunch of songs and stuff, and it's true. I went home and I wrote this song called Mostly Alone. It was like, mostly alone. If I was on stage, I start playing it. 'Cause there's it was real cheesy because I was young and I didn't know. I had learned to play Knocking on Heaven's Door. It's like GDC. Knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door. And I also learned that if you alternate between G and C, you can sing over it's easy. Or the opposite. And I had this song called Mostly Alone. And that's when for music, took off for me. And I realized that I heard audio. When I hear the audio, I can feel it in a very, very profound, deep way. It was a revelation to me because, like I was saying, in that clip, that I wanted to be a preacher. So I was always really interested in the scene in the Bible where Jesus was in the desert. It blew my mind, man. And I spent a lot of time with the Bible, with the New Testament. Like Jesus, was just, I couldn't believe. I mean, I did. Of course, I did believe it. I was just trying to wrap my mind around it as a young man. The sacrifice. Now, don't anybody panic. I'm not trying to convert anybody right now. That might be on episode 87, but that's not this one. This is me. This is me. I'm talking about me. Jesus blew my mind. And I wanted to tell everybody and anybody that I could. Like, I thought that was, but then music changed everything. I started to hear the organs in church different, everything. Everything was different. Okay. Let's see where I think this is. Okay. All right. So this next clip that's coming up is from something that I put together, I think. Wait a second. Let me see. Let's just run it.
Regulations are
You know, we were talking before we went
Okay, all right. Okay, this is a continuation, and then we're going to go into the Misfits bit of my life. I've also told the story. It was just Pete Steele's birthday. How I got into the Misfits. That's not a story for tonight. Everybody knows that I got into the Misfits. So there I am, wanting to be a musician, and when that became when I felt that in my heart, like, that was it. I knew, I felt. I wish I had I wish I had a certain document right now, but I don't have it. It was just, I knew that was my path, whether I liked it or not. I just knew it. I knew it. I knew I was going to be a musician. I knew I was going to make music. I knew I was going to stand in front of crowds. I had dreams about it. So I prepared for it. My whole life, I prepared for it. Writing, I wrote mostly alone. And then from there, it was just up until about a couple of years ago, I just wrote and wrote and wrote. And as you can see, again, in front of me in the past couple of days, I have a lot of documents and stuff that I'm going to touch on tonight. So I just wrote music. I wrote music. I studied voice. I was in theater. I did acting. I wanted to be an actor. I got in front of the camera as much as I could. I worked on all of the muscles that you need to be an artist. I joined a theater group. My mother found this theater group. Some of you have told the story about. It was in this like really upscale neighborhood in New Jersey, in Franklin Lakes, and I was like the weird, like not rich kid, weird rich kid. And the story of where Julie comes from and Crying on Saturday Night. And I learned stage props and non-regional dialect and dancing, and started to learn how to breathe and dance and perform and put it all together and sing in a group and project. And I put that all together, and I was in fun. I started a band, before Mopes. A lot of you know Mopes. There was, I was in a really, really cool, awesome band called Valmont. I played bass in Valmont. We're going backwards now. It's like Valmont. I was in this a band called Social Outcast, and before that we were called Bambi Slam. And so I was always making music. I was an artist. I am an artist. I know I don't look like it. I look more like the DPW guy or something. The guy that brings propane to your house. Which isn't bad. I'm just saying. Trust me, I could go over the list of things that I've done and that I continue to do to try to make a buck, to keep going on this crazy journey. All right, so my life leads me up to, again, like the farmhouse, right? So this is where we mix the story with the farmhouse, and I won't get too much into it, but like, again, a lot of you love that song Gorch. Well, that comes from up here where I live here I'm in Albany County, but Greene County is a stone's throw away. And when I was young, in the summertime, I would come up here and I would work at Sunny Hill Resort in Greenville, New York. And when I was a kid, when I was 18, my plan was to get out of high school and move up here and be with people that were my friends, including Darren Gorch, who was the first person that I ever gave my autograph to. He was he spoke confidence into my heart and said things that I very rarely heard, other than, my mom, my dad, my family, well, not my family. I mean, my brother was, I'd tell you some of the things he called me. We're best of friends now. My brother is my best friend. I love him very much. He's probably working, so he's not watching right now. I discovered a lot of music through my brother. So I was going to get out of high school, and I was going to come up here and work and be in a band and just continue my life of making music and being up here. I loved being up here in the country. I loved it with all my heart and soul. I loved it. And that's why I'm here now. But when I was 18 years old, Darren Gorch and a bunch of other kids decided to go canoeing on the Catskill Creek during the spring thaw, and the boat turned over and Darren was killed. So that blew my mind when I was 18. It blew my mind with everything else that was going on in my life at the time, and with my family, and me personally. Darren dies. Now what the hell am I going to do? I didn't come back up this way for years after his funeral. I was destroyed. I didn't really talk about it. I painted a picture, I wrote a song, and never really talked about it. Until recent, the past couple of years, I've really plugged it into my life, and it wasn't until 2020 that I ever was able to go to Darren's grave, because it just, I can't tell you. I'm a crier, so I could, I I weep, and it's because that's what I feel. Like, I feel the profound human sadness. And so it's very difficult for me. So I was like, fuck that. I'm not going up there. I'm not going to work. Got to think of something different. And I hooked up with Mopes. I was in Mopes, and in between that time, it was a really beautiful time as well. There's been some really amazing people throughout my life, from Tim to Trokey to all the guys in Quincy and all the guys in Mopes, Nigel and Lenny, Dan, who are just the most amazing musicians. And I got to work with these creative, these incredible people, man. So there's this beautiful time where I really discovered a lot of music with Trokey. Opened my eyes to so much music. And before that, Timmy, my beautiful friend Tim, so much music, taught me so much. He was like this, all of them are like these weird, strange, twisted, beautiful angels that part of their reason for being here was to inspire me. Every time I look at my Doc Martens, when I look down at my Doc Martens and I start to tie them, the first thing that pops in my mind is my friend Tim. Every time. So leading up so I was working with Mopes, right? That's how I got hooked up with the Misfits. I was in that studio and they hooked me up with Jerry, and then I went to audition, and then it took so long, and then Doyle and I were just laughing about the ad that was taken out. I have my phone. There's the picture going around. I guess it was probably on Instagram. The ad that the Misfits took out with the phone number to have people call to join the Misfits. And I sent it to Doyle, and I was like, I remember sitting there with you answering the phone for all those weeks, and how much fun we had, and we laughed our balls off. It was so great. All right, so here's the part with the Misfits. All right, here we go. So I'm talking in this video.
I had never seen that before.
Yeah, we'll take it from here.
And then all of a sudden, the dream in my heart changed.
Massively increased taxes. The regulations are.
We were talking before we went and turned the tape machine on about a blessed life.
Yeah.
But, you were born blessed with great parents, obviously, in a great country, with great opportunity around you. But you made your life blessed.
Yes.
I mean, you did, Michael. The
Yes.
fact of the matter is you learned your craft, you work hard, you chased the Misfits for a year, right? Did whatever they asked you to do to get into it. And then, okay, so now...
So let me just stop here. One of the things that I want to put on the record is that when I left the Misfits, I wasn't forced out of the Misfits. Nobody... I wasn't fired. I wasn't kicked out. I left on my own accord. I certainly regret that decision. When I look back on it, I regret that decision. Even though I justify it, it wasn't the band. It wasn't Jerry only, and it wasn't Doyle. In fact, Doyle didn't want me to go, and none of them wanted me to go. But I wasn't very good at all of the things that I needed to be good at that time. I was very self-absorbed. I was very passive aggressive. I was just man. I spent too much time worrying about me and how I felt inside and how all these things were making me feel. And when I look back on it now in my life, and what I push through and teach my children to not miss the forest for the trees, I think the story goes. I was in the Misfits, 20-something years old. I'll back it up and I'll show you some of those pictures again because they're awesome. I was 20-something years old. I was making good money. I was the lead singer of a very popular band, like John was saying. I had the world by the balls. My job was to perform and to write music. And so when I went home, I did spend a lot of time, obviously, writing music. I did write a lot of stuff, but I got a lot wrong is what I'm trying to say. And I don't want anybody to get the impression that I am putting out there the message that Jerry or Doyle or anybody that was in that outfit was, forced me out or fight. It was me. It was me. It was me that did that. It was like I had the suicide vest and I might get pulled off of YouTube. And, I pulled the ripcord. Nobody else. It doesn't matter how I was being treated. It doesn't matter. Right? Those are some of the things that, all right. So here we go.
You're in the Misfits, but you've done so much since then.
Yeah.
So talk to me about moving on from something that's that exciting, because that's a big decision that you had to make. So you're in a successful band now. Mm-hmm. You're making a living. You're a freaking rock star, right? You're not only in a band, you're in a very hip band.
Yeah.
A really edgy, really loved band.
Yeah.
With a fanatical kind of audience, right?
Absolutely.
Fan base. How do you walk away from something like that? How do you move on?
All right. So, back it up a second.
And you're in a very hip band.
So I left in 2000. My last show was 2001 with the Misfits. So after that, I was in Graves with Chud. And we started going in 2001. It was like our first tour. That was started, it was like tragedy after hardship after tragedy. Now, if you've just tuned in, this isn't I'm not painting myself out to be, I'm a victim type thing. I'm going to tell you about all my hardships. I'm just giving you mile markers in my life, in my career, so that we can reach more of an understanding of how we got to the Save Michale Graves concert that's happening tomorrow, that so many of you have bought and have done so much. My goodness, God bless you. Thank you very, very much. If you just tuned in, you don't know what I'm talking about, officialmichaelgraves.com for the ticket link and everything. All right. So, I leave the Misfits, and it's Graves 2001, and hold on a second here. How the fuck you do this? All right. The towers come down. Okay. Was that the first tragedy? Let me see. I think that was the first tragedy, but it's big because that I had to go on the road. We all went on the road, like right after the towers came down, September 11th, 2001. So it was like a week or so after that we went out on the road. And it was crazy to be out on the road. It was crazy to be out on the road. We were headed for Los Angeles, which is also eventually when we got there, 1119, that's where, we were going 1119. And then I wrote the song because the 1119 thing, which is a totally different story that we're not getting into tonight. So we're headed out to Los Angeles, and that was the whole thing, like the nuclear bomb and everything was going off. Someone had the nuclear suitcase, and we're leaving New York City that was in ruins, and the whole terrorist attack thing, it was insane. It was insane. People were crazy, and we were scared. Everybody was scared. Well, maybe not everybody, but I was scared. The band was scared. It was a crazy time. So Graves ended, and by the time Graves ended, I had friends who were murdered, girls that were childhood friends that were very close to me, suicide themselves. I was being sued from the Misfits. That the Misfits weren't suing me, but there was a lawsuit from the Days in the Misfits that was. I was getting sued for like almost $1 million or something like that. This kid, I think it was the kid that I supposedly kicked his teeth out or something when I jumped off the stage. I didn't have anything at that point. I had nothing. I didn't have anything. And here I'm getting fucking sued. It was a really, really rough time. It really sucked. And then I left Graves because Chud had just really become a person that just was an awful piece of shit that I didn't respect, and he didn't respect anybody but him. He didn't care about anybody but himself. At the end of this long fucking tour where all he did was wake up and play and just do whatever he wanted to do with, and the rest of the team is where I was like, like literally printing shirts and driving and setting up and running the show, man. Loki was there the whole time. That's where Loki and I really, really bonded. So Graves breaks up, and I start Gotham Road. So I come across a CD that Loki and what's his face? Hats Emmanuel put together. And it was brilliant. The music was incredible. And I started writing stuff over it. And so me, Loki, JV, and Paulie Lifeless started a band called Gotham Road. And it was awesome because the music was really heavy. It was really heavy. And by the time I got to the Gotham Road music, I was pissed off everything was just, I needed, when you listen to the music, or when I listened to the music, it was how I felt inside. And when you read those lyrics, and I encourage you to read those lyrics because it says a lot. So, all of them. I'm going to play You Awful Me tomorrow. It's got one of the greatest guitar solos ever in it. I'm not going to play the guitar solo, but the original recording that we did, it's just tremendous. Oh my God. But the lyrics, like a Seasons of the Witch, it's like you have finally found the time. You'll be remembered for a long, long time. It's just, I encourage you to find the Gotham Road stuff and check it out. Okay, so let me stop here. Okay, let me stop here, and I'm going to read something to you. I'm going to put this down so I don't hit the button and fuck everything up again. This is like operating in this. Oh my God, that's the button I hit. Let me put this thing like this. Wait, no, I'm not. It's like operating in the space shuttle in this space. Everything is like right on top of me, so I got to keep my elbows in and like move slow and make sure that I don't hit anything. All right, I want to read something to you. Again, all these papers that I've gone through. If you just joined me, I'm going to be, I'm playing never before seen footage, except for a few, but I'm going to be playing some of the stuff that I have from January 5th and January 6th when I get to that part of my story. But I'm short on time. No, you know what? I'm going to take my time. Again, tomorrow is the Save Michale Graves performance. I got a lot of work to do on the audio, but it's going to be awesome. I'm going to look at the songs that you want to hear in the comments section. If you haven't, if you're just checking this out right now, and it's not past January 6th at 3 p.m., you can still get tickets. I usually turn the ticket link off like 30 minutes before I go at 3 o'clock. So 2:30 Eastern. You still have time. My God, I always want to thank everybody, but I'll keep going with my story. I want to read you this, okay? The Death of Punk. This is something that somebody wrote, God, years ago, and by Garrett Catt. It says, The Death of Punk is brought to you by Garrett Catt. All right, I'm in Gotham Road now. I'm in Gotham Road. I just came from the Misfits. For years, I've waved a middle finger at the mundane and mediocre fashions and trends that seem to define the small town in which I live. Okay, this is about 2003, 2004 we're at, okay? 20 years prior to now. Now, I'm a very understanding person. I am not blindly prejudiced against anyone and everyone who does not share my taste in music and clothing. People who genuinely like how they look in pink and blue and Roxy and Nike deserve as much respect as we who love ourselves in self-altered creations and band tees. It was those who follow the media-inspired trends that turned my stomach so. With the rising influence of hip-hop and rap, it seems most are content to don the sideways visors or baseball caps and matching fluorescent sports jerseys and track pants. What has upset me is the fact that these individuals have thrown away the idea of looking like themselves for the premise of looking like their favorite rapper. Quote, the wardrobe I lived my life in had become popularized and my individuality had been hidden beneath a blanket of fashionable anarchists. And this trend hasn't just dug its teeth into fashion. Many words spoken now by rich children raised in suburbia and given $20,000 cars for their birthday show that they have decided that they've had the hard knock life of a child born in poverty in a New York ghetto and talk accordingly. That's important when we talk about the history of punk rock and how it was a movement and a music that was born out of and in an urban environment that then made its way into suburbia in America in the 80s, in the Reagan years. Or I'm continuing reading. I have great respect for those who have worked hard in any fashion to bring themselves out of poverty and rough environments to achieve something good. And I don't ostracize the rappers for their craft, but rather the mindless zombies who are content to follow the trends in order to help themselves look cool. I have lived my life in combat boots, spikes, chains, and patches, and taken all the pressure and pain that comes with the territory. I've been assaulted and keep in mind, this is somebody that's talking about, this is the 80s and the 90s that's being described about the combat boots, spikes, chains, and patches, and the pressure and pain that comes with that. Because it's not so much now. I was out today, I looked over to my right, and I just started laughing. Because there was this, like, not old lady, but this lady who was probably, I don't know, like 60 something, I guess, maybe like close to 70. I don't know how old she was, but she had she was old. She had all like white hair, and you could tell it was dyed purple. I mean, nothing against that. I'm not saying that there's something against that. I'm just saying that was, you would never, ever, 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 ever see that just going out in the 80s or the 90s, and it'd be just like, whatever. So when you did look like that, it came with a price. Like, you were a total freak. You were a total freakazoid freak show back then. I've been assaulted, insulted, and generally shunned because I don't fit snugly into the fashionable. The way I dress is a reflection of myself. Someone who wants to break free from what this world considers normal. I've been asked to remove myself from the school premises upon wearing a Bad Religion shirt, and I thought I was attending a public school. And I've been threatened with criminal charges for donning spikes and chains with my regular apparel. I've been threatened with death for my audacity in wearing a fishnet shirt and black makeup, nail polish to school on the odd occasion. I had succeeded in my efforts to shake things up and unsettle those who can't understand individuality, what this essay is about. My life had been lived well in my eyes. I turned deaf ears to the propaganda of common fashion and tastes, but my lifelong independence from the mainstream soon became lost in a tidal wave of fashionable rebellion in my final year of high school. When Blink 182 came into mass popularity, the scene became more common. Now my bondage pants and safety pin torn up shirts had maintained their uniqueness, as only the skateboarder form of punk rock had become cool. The guys started wearing camo and getting pierced in more places than their ears, and the Britney Spears lookalikes swooned and flirted with the trendy punkness of their cohorts. I shrugged my shoulders because the diluted form of punk lifestyle that had become trendy was still nothing when contrasted with the unique style that I and some friends of mine still maintained. Good Charlotte and Avril Lavigne soon arrived to spawn from the popularity of skate punk music and don the cutting edge look. And as pseudo-punk music spread, so did the pseudo-punk trend. Soon, dog collars and mohawks were the norm, as were band tees, spiked bracelets, and chains. The wardrobe I'd lived my life in had become popularized, and my individuality had been hidden beneath a blanket of fashionable anarchists. People soon found it cool to wear anarchy patches and ostracize government officials and law enforcement. A friend of mine and I had begun work on our NFP organization based upon the principles of Marxist anarcho-communism, and were shocked at the sudden onset of anti-establishment ideals. Of course, despite their rage toward the corporate machine, they still wore the oh-so-punk rock clothing made by brands like Roxy and Parasuco. Their hatred of government was a weakened and diluted version of the formerly uncommon and unfashionable rebellion that I and several of my cohorts had proudly shown for years. It had seemed that the true meaning of rebellion and anti-establishment sentiment had been drowned in the flood of fashionable alienation that was brought to us by all major corporate brands. How different that is now. I'm continuing. My friends and I mourned our loss. The very things we were once despised and shunned for had made us trendy. Back in the 80s, people predicted the punk movement would die out quickly as soon as the music lost its popularity with the angst-ridden, rebellious youth. But the movement now faces an even greater threat, the very loss of its definition at the hands of the popular kids and their I'm going to piss off mommy and daddy forms of rebellion and mock individuality. I, for one, know that I will always continue to stand fast against the establishment and against the fashionable and the trendy. And even if punk forever loses its true definition, I'll still know what it means, because what it means is who I am. And that was written a long time ago by Garrett Catt. Now, I and you probably agree with like 99% of that. I just want to point one thing out for you that's important in this fever dream that we're having together. In it, it says that the author of this piece, I quote from here. A friend of mine and I had begun work on our NFP, not-for-profit organization based upon the principles of Marxist anarcho-communism. And then we're shocked at the sudden onset of anti-establishment ideals and all these other people that the author disagrees with. That's an important part of all of this, because I agree with what she's or he is saying. But you have to realize that as well. I knew, I didn't guess. Again, I was the lead singer of the Misfits in the 90s. I grew up in the 1900s. I knew, as go all the way back to Tim Ring, brilliant guitarist, punk rocker, and all of the people as well. I shouldn't say the names. Kylie and that crew. Joe and the crew that he knew and was. I knew what Marxist anarcho-communism was, and I knew what the other side was, the constitutional, the liberty, love America side of punk, which eventually was much more prevalent in the hardcore scene, but it was there were punk bands that were like that, but this the Marxist type folks were organizing. There was money flowing into it. That was becoming what that was becoming the movement, right? That was becoming the scene. And if you didn't agree, even back then, bad things would happen. Okay. Now we're at about 2004. And there's an election coming up. And I thought I had there's this website that the lead singer of NoFX starts called Punk Voter. Called Punk Voter. Punk Voter, one of their mission statements was to register 500,000 young new voters to vote Democrat. So all sorts of money started to flow in. All sorts of money. Okay? And so this organization as well was connected to all of these other leftist organizations, which I knew about. And I understood it from a street level too, because I was in a touring band. I talked to people. I understood the temperature of the room, if you will. I knew about I knew about the punks, and I knew about the skinheads. I knew about who was what, and the laces and all the different hierarchies. And so this website is, and when this this is already, I'm out of the Misfits. So I had worked with Fat Mike, and so so there's punkvoter.com, and it's just giving one side of the deal. And I didn't agree, and there was other people that didn't agree with a lot of the things that they were saying and putting out. And so I thought that it might have been a good idea to add dissenting voices, so that on the outside of that, coming out of all of that information, people can just make a decision on their own, where you can have somebody fair and balanced. But no, that nobody was interested in fair and balanced. So, Nick Rizzuto started conservativepunk.com. Nick Rizzuto got Andrew Wilkow involved. Andrew Wilkow now on the Patriot channel, Patriot, Sirius XM, the Patriot channel. He's on at noon, 12 to 3. I used to catch Andrew. He used to broadcast on WABC out of New York City on Sundays. And I heard Andrew's his bumper. One day his bumper was Misfit music. And I was like, what? This dude's playing Misfits music? So I called him up. And we became fast friends. And he said, hey, you want to be involved in this conservative punk thing? I said, absolutely I do. So going through my things, I found the press release for conservative punk from all the way back when. I can't believe this doesn't have a date on it. Who doesn't put a date on a press release? Okay, so the press release says, as of January 31st, 2004, I guess there's the date, conservativepunk.com officially launches. The site has been created to educate, inform, and increase the little-known demographic of the conservative punk. This is not C-SPAN meets MTV. This site boasts conservatives from well-known artist Michale Graves of Gotham Road and former lead singer of the Misfits to conservative talk show host and former rock jock Andrew Wilkow to the average person on the street. This site has been created to counteract the multiple liberal sites on the web, which are run by only a small number of punk artists who are choosing to make up the minds of thousands of voters. ConservativePunk.com will finally allow conservatives who have decided to keep their punk ideals alive a place to air their thoughts on government, liberal counterparts, and music. It is being released this year to help inform America's youth about the upcoming election and let them make up their own minds, rather than push liberal sentiment down their throats. Nick Rizzuto, the founder of ConservativePunk.com, hopes that this site will energize and excite young people to come to their own conclusion and hopefully register to vote this year. He hopes to inform young people of more conservative ideals and hopes that they will be unafraid to say that they are a conservative punk. Since 1992, multiple outlets for America's youth have tried to get them more involved in politics and in voting. The only similarity between all of these channels is that they support left-wing ideals. ConservativePunk.com is hoping not to change this trend, but to give today's young people a way to view politics from a different perspective. ConservativePunk.com is no longer happening. It's been defunct as a punk voter. But this is one of my stacks of papers that I've found of things that I like, articles and stuff that I wrote, which is important to understand. This track that we're on, that I'm laying out here tonight in this broadcast for you, that's going to bring us up to how I've gotten to this Save Michale Graves. I don't want to hit the button that I hit. Save Michale Graves concert that's happening tomorrow at 3 o'clock. If you haven't got your tickets, www.officialmichaelgraves.com. I'm laying this all out. I'm going to play never before seen footage from January 5th and January 6th. I'm going to tell you the story of me and my, my association, my with the Proud Boys and what that means and why I have to do what I'm doing here right now so that it makes more sense. So conservative punk comes out. Okay? I write an article. I write a whole bunch of articles, but one, for example, here's some of the stuff that I wrote. Because it's important to understand this too, okay? Because this is where the political thing happens. All right, this is the early 2000s. So I start writing these articles. I think one of the first, I wrote, these might be out of order. March. This is 2004, March 2004. It was published in Intellectual Conservative. And I say things like, the agenda of the democratic liberal left in our country is now being propagated and dressed as an agenda of punk rock through a recently launched website. And then I talk about Punk Voter. I reference Marx and Freud and Reich. This is I say in this article, and then I would, obviously people were like, huh? So I would do interviews and I would say things like, this sort of thing is contributing to and feeding a fire that, if not doused, could have serious consequences to the security and the future of our country. This doctrine is dangerous and being set forth into naive minds. I was afraid that the rift would grow so much between conservative punk type people, right? And punk voter type people, that there would be violence on the street. I didn't want to see that. I didn't want to see relationships ripped apart. We had and shit burnt down and things broken and things ruined and changed and attacked. I remember back in the day, at the end, the skinheads, the Nazi skinheads, they would ruin everything. They would show up and that's it. If they showed up, your shit was over. Somebody was going to do something stupid. There was going to be a fight every time. I was in Detroit and a riot broke out at this festival that was happening. And one of the skinheads grabbed this kid and was rubbing his face on the sidewalk, just like grating his face away. These people were animal, like that. They were crazy people. They still are. And all right, so that's for a different day. So the doctrine is dangerous, and if not doused, could have serious consequences. I go on. I also was saying, if not paid proper attention to, and I was talking about, people like Andrew Wilkow was at least trying, but nobody was saying this. Nobody was focusing on this. I was waving a flag, and people would call me a pussy and all these other crazy things, because it was like I was saying that the sky is going to fall. I would write, and I wrote in 2004, if not paid proper attention to, the politics and anti-politics of the young will become more and more dangerous to everyone and everything. I was laughed at. I said we need to offer clear factual debate, knowledge that can eventually create a solid, well-informed, educated foundation for kids to draw from, so they might then be in a better position to form intellectual, informed opinions based on truth concerning important issues that face our nation and people. There wasn't any of that. This is 2004. I also wrote an article in July 2004 called "Punk Rock Hates America." I talk about the counterculture of the 1960s. Groups like the Weather Underground, revolutionary groups like that. Like, I'm not a revolutionary. I'm just fine with the way that this place was set up with the Constitution. I'm not looking for a revolution. There already was one. I talk about how that the counterculture, the systems, it spawned a new generation of young activists and revolutionary-minded leaders with a new sense of fury. They are entrenched in their idealistic views and relativist thinking. Because after punkvoter.com came out, and it kind of sort of like opened the door to the whole left, like it gave even now radical leftists the ability to be even more extreme with their views and thinking, and because there was nothing countering it. There was no, there was no magazines or radio shows or anything anywhere that was saying, okay, well, I disagree, ba 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 ba. There wasn't that. It was just this punk voter sort of thing, just taking over everything. This is in the days, some people remember WLIB. It was a leftist radio station, WLIB. Rachel Maddow was on WLIB. I was one of the first people that she interviewed way back when, and then it went out of business, and I guess a lot of those people were absorbed by MSNBC. Yeah, there was a lot of people. I'm trying to think of a name okay. So I'm also I also were saying things like these ideas have disastrously inserted themselves into these movements of the past, these radical movements of the past that were being echoed in the sentiment on the street and in these websites, and what were the music that was being played and what the artists were saying. This ideology was inserting itself disastrously into the curriculum of schools and colleges. This is 2004. I'm writing this and saying this. It has significantly altered the texture of sexual relationships, family life. It's played havoc with the authority of churches and places of moral wisdom. It undermines things like the claims of civic virtue, national self-understanding, the national self-understanding, the whole country understanding itself and who it is and where it came from. Even just an individual, yourself out there, that you have to know who you are and where you came from, and that in which you stand upon is your integrity. Integrity is what you are inside, is the same thing you are outside, but you have to build those things on values, and so do societies. I say it's degraded media and popular culture, entertainment. It's confused our hearts distressingly. Our innermost assumptions have been radically are being attacked about what counts as the good life. It's perverted our dreams as much as it has stopped us and prevented us from achieving them, attaining them. And then I go on to name a bunch of groups, the NARAL, PETA, the Democratic Party. I'm talking about how Punk Voter and all of these different groups are aligned. I write punkvoter.com's strategy mirrors that of billionaire George Soros's America's Coming Together group. This is 2004, and I was laughed at. Their perspective of America seems to be in line with the same mindset, and I go on to say that the whole thing in that punk rock is being taken over by it. I say the rejection of contemporary culture and its institutions have emerged in pop culture. It's fashionable and cool. It's abundant through mainstream rock music and popular entertainment. The product of the movement will weaken this country's ability to secure itself domestically. And I know that the so-called president was in, Valley Forge, saying that people like me and the people that I am associated with, some of the people that was associated with in this time frame, are literal terrorists. You know what that means? I said an entire generation being brought up on views and twisted opinions. Noam Chomsky, Michael Moore, an entire culture void of the knowledge of the greatness and sacrifice of our nation, and the greatness and the sacrifice of our military has made for all of us and for all free people of the world. It's a dangerous course. That was 2004. People went ballistic. Let's jump back to some video. Okay, so all this is going on, And the media is all over me. And I'm saying these things to the media. And they're like, but you're a punk rocker. Why does that doesn't make any sense? And I'm saying I'm the canary in the coal mine. I'm being canceled. I'm being attacked. We can't do this. If this sort of thing perpetuates, there's going to be violence on the street. People are going to get hurt. We can't have that happen. We have to provide an example for the younger kids and for the rest of everybody that's looking to us as leaders. And they were like, screw you, Graves. Go pound sand, you piece of crap. Okay, so here we go. The New York Times puts out an article, and that's where it all pivots.
You sent me copies of emails from promoters and club owners that, and especially the ones in Europe, that will not let your band play because of your use. I was shocked and offended.
They wrote me a letter that says they will not support ideas like these being spread or the people that actively spread them.
But I think once they get to know you and know your music and know the person that I know, that they'll find that you're just like them, except, you, like I said, you like ghost stories for older kids.
Absolutely, it's a stereotype.
A couple of American clubs that won't play your music either, right? Or let you play?
Directly because they got hold of the New York Times article.
Okay. So, there it is. I am, at this point, for all intents and purposes, at this point in time, a band. The band decides to go on the road. And I don't know. Let me just see if. So the band decides to go on the road. Oh, that's after.
And especially the ones.
Okay. So I don't think it's included here, but if you're watching on YouTube or you go to my YouTube, Blackness in the Forest, at this point, band goes out on the road and we get all our stuff stolen. Somebody breaks into it's just this whole thing. We get robbed of all our stuff, and we're looking forward to playing with X Ward, Chud's band, on like Halloween. Like all these horrible things happen to us on the road. And it's really hard. Right? It's really hard for us on the road. We're not making hardly any money, right? We got like 9 guys in one room in a Motel 6. It was the days that you get like 1 or 2 rooms at the cheapest motel you could find, and you just sneak everybody in. 2 people, maybe 3 people check in to the desk, and then just dudes are jumping over the walls and just pouring in. And then we would put a movie on the TV. And Joe would always pick the movie. He was the dude. And we were, that was the day. Those were the days. And it's just horrible. So I decide that I don't want to do it anymore. It's just I don't
not let your band play.
I don't want to do it. And so the feeling in the country after 9/11 is war. And at this point I'm so broken down and into the psychological operation that was September 11th. I was so mad and so lost. That I decided that I had to do something different. I had to do something different. And this is the part of the story where I joined the military in 2004. It's a disaster. So I go from wanting to save that guy in that doorway to now I'm at, that homeless guy. And I'm talking about peace. And I'm talking about we can't be doing these things and nobody's listening. We can't be saying these things. We can't be ignoring this and perpetuating this, because eventually there's going to be terrible things that happen. Terrible things that happen where other people are going to look to other people and they're not going to see people. They're going to see their enemy. They're going to see something that is against them, and it's going to be bad. And doing that and saying that and sticking up for, God, my spirituality, my religion, my belief in God was attacked. Everything. I was a white supremacist back then too. And so instead of a path of peace, I wanted to, and I did choose a path of violence and destruction. But that wasn't the right path. That was against what my nature was. I was capable, but it was just not what I was supposed to be doing. And so I come back. I put out a record called Punk Rock is Dead, which you can't get. I'll be playing some of the songs from Punk Rock is Dead tomorrow on the performance. Okay. So I come back, Punk Rock is Dead. Again, I go out on that tour and it's a disaster. It's a disaster.
Don't play your music either, right? Or let you play?
But then we get to
Directly
this
because
point.
They got hold of the New York Times.
Then we get to this point through all that. Again, the van gets broken into, and at one point I buy a Winnebago, and or no, that was before. So the next step in all of this is the West Memphis 3.
Your use I was
Because it's after all of this, and after my dismal failure at military life, I became an EMT. I was good at that, and I really liked it. And so that was my main focus. I worked on a mountain in New Jersey making snow with my brother. It was tremendous. It was tremendous times. And the story goes, Blackness in the Forest, I made a short film about it where I discover the West Memphis 3. On March 31st, 2006, Michale Graves. Hold on, backing it up.
shocked and offended.
Ah, crap. So at this point in my life, again, I'm trying to figure out where the hell I'm going, what I'm doing. And so this is when I start playing acoustic guitar and stuff. And JV gives me a DVD of Paradise Lost, which is a film that was made about, there he was. It was a film that was made about the West Memphis 3. And then I looked it up on the internet, and I discovered that Damien had written a book called Almost Home, My Life Story Volume 1 by Damien Eccles. So then I decide that I'm going to do this. So on March 31st, 2006, I spearheaded a 2-month-long national campaign to promote the book. The Almost Home tour will hit 55 cities across the country. It led up to West Memphis 3 World Awareness Day, June 3rd, 2006. It's my intent to reach out to as many people as I can, as many
I know that they'll find
have in the past. Crap. Hold on, let me back it up.
Because they got hold of the New York Times article.
Okay, here we go. It is my intent to reach out to as many people as I can, as so many others have in the past, using the media, internet, spoken word, music, and activism to give Damien's words a meaning. Almost Home is a message from a 12 by 9 foot cell in a cinder block building surrounded by coils of razor wire in the middle of a dirt field in Arkansas. I made this really fast. West Memphis 3 World Awareness Day is June 3rd, 2006. I am neither a freak nor a monster, is a quote from Damien Eccles. WM3.org was the website. This was a promo that was run back then. How could this happen in America? Seek truth. Demand justice. Oh, these are slow. Those other ones were like cruising by. Expose this corruption. This took place in Arkansas, West Memphis, Arkansas. Organize. Who really did this? What if our answers come too late? Damien was on death row. What if we are right? Hang on, Damien. Almost Home Tour 2006. It's great. The band was just fantastic. Jason Trioxin, God rest his soul. JV Bastard. 55 U.S. cities we hit. Quincy's back there on drums with the Lucha Libre mask on. There he is. We went everywhere. 55 cities. And I took as many books as I could with me. And everything that, every time I got the chance to talk about the West Memphis 3, I did. Eventually, Damien and I started to write music together. And we wrote a bunch of stuff when he was still on death row, which then became the Illusions album. And I started writing about it as well, because the whole political thing it kicked the shit out of me. All right, before we get there. So we do the Almost Home tour, and and it's just, I started writing about it. So to give you an idea, I wrote this. I wrote a piece. It was called 3 Chords and the Truth. It is several weeks before, and in it I said it's several weeks before I set out on a tour to raise money to record a collection of songs that I've written with a man that I have never seen or spoken to named Damien Eccles. Damien is a death row inmate in Arkansas. I made a promise to myself and to him to record those songs in his home state, and then it goes on from there. He was accused of being a witch and worshiping the devil. I wrote an article called "And Justice for Some." Talked about Damien being the town weirdo who dressed all in black and wore Metallica and Slayer t-shirts. And this happened in the 90s. Again, Paradise Lost. Yeah, HBO documentary. The local media ascended upon the mostly conservative Christian town and contributed fuel to the fire of gossip and rumor that was already running rampant and circulating among residents and families concerning devil worship cults and Damien Eccles. Soon it seemed everyone had a tale to tell, none too tall to believe. And that was the point of all of that. And it rhymes with the things that are happening right now, today, which is, part of my whole cancellation thing that's happening. And I was talking about groupthink and what was happening in West Memphis was the same sort of spirit that had made itself known. It was the same spirit of Salem, Massachusetts in the 1600s. That same sort, the McCarthy era, those sort of things. What we see today, it's the same psychological manipulation. It's the same wheels that are broken inside our brains that are allowing these things to happen. So then I go out on the road and it's like this. This is
Guy just disappeared.
I talked to him on the phone.
Oh, you did? You felt justified to just bounce after talking about Jesus all night to us?
He met a girl that he really liked, so he went to show her the holiday.
I think this is from, I put together something called Veretta Park.
Oh, yeah.
And JV and I spent a lot of time out on the road, just him and I, in my pickup truck. This was in Cedar Falls, Iowa. And we were just in a pickup truck, and we would go and we would play acoustic.
We didn't get paid again tonight.
bad mood. Less than a quarter of people have a positive outlook.
I'm a much younger man there, as you could see.
Very well. This is no surprise to me.
And I call it Veretta Park because on the way out, Joe started to play me all these things about the Kurt Cobain suicide that was probably definitely a murder.
Not shocking to me at all. With the past 8 years between starting wars and nobody really knowing why.
How much is gas? Can we see? I don't know.
Shocking news today. Kurt Cobain, lead singer of Seattle's
I'd rather be hated for what I am than loved for what I am not. And then this is the, it goes into the video for Veretta Park. It's like this. And so that was the first time I had been out to Veretta Park. There's Joe. We're just kind of taking it all in because by then it was a quest. We had been through so much tornadoes, floods, you name it, not getting paid. And we just wanted to get to Seattle. We just so badly needed to get there, and we did. And this is footage from it when we got there.
Kurt Cobain, who was 27 years old, wrote the music and English lyrics to most of the band's
Yeah, it was back in the 1900s.
We believe that. We've come apart.
All right, so there's me appearing on RT as we move further into time. I just want to see what's on here because I forget what comes next here. This is the what do you call it? Locked Away video. All right, so let me get the next part of this. All right, so let's jump to, so we're going to jump further into time here. We're going to get to about 2017, 2018 coming up here in, no, you know what's also important to show you real quick.
Not only am I a talk show host on AR1.
So this is 2015, okay? So now I'm in Little Rock, Arkansas, and I'm on AR1.TV, which is me right there. I produced other shows that were coming out of this thing, out of AR1.TV. I was doing lots of editing, and I was maintaining the stream and running audio and live shots and doing voiceovers and making commercials and helping to and thinking about monetizing, how to monetize the station and make it lucrative in Little Rock, Arkansas. All right, so I was living in Little Rock, Arkansas in 2015. Just absolute a lot of mayhem in my life. So that's what it looked like in 2015 when I was in Little Rock, Arkansas. Okay, well, so that's great. So moving forward, I move out of Little Rock back east, the band and get the band back together and start playing again. And it's a very productive music time for me. And we're out on the road with the band, just churning along, man. All right, we're moving into 2018, 2017, 2018. And I'm not very political. You know, I got all my stuff up. I would retweet articles. You know, I would just express myself. And then this happens.
Well, guess what? He, of course, after Glenn Danzig left the Misfits, was the lead singer for a long time, with hundreds of great songs. And he was one of the headliners at a major festival in England. But the left canceled him because, well, he tweeted Alex Jones and Paul Joseph Watson. And this just illustrates how they're waging war on people's free speech. It is the Chinese social score system where you can't travel, you can't have bank accounts, anything. And then they also always build straw men that we're Nazis. You know, when they doxed Gavin McInnes and gave out his cell phone number, so he's getting all these death threats. He's joining us next segment. When they doxed him, the very same group that just confronted and threatened Ted Cruz and his wife and said, we're going to get you, we know where you are. When they did that, they also said, oh, and tell Gab McInnes you love white genocide. Because that's a trigger word for the left, because they're pushing white genocide. All these professors are saying, when you get rid of the white race, it's inherently evil. That's what Tucker Carlson pointed out last night was, they're saying if a woman says that you sexually assaulted her, you are guilty. You're not innocent until proven guilty under Western jurisprudence. You are guilty. And that piece is coming up in a moment as well. But it's just amazing. If you're white, you're guilty. If you're a man, you're guilty. This is authoritarianism. And you've got that different Democrat congresswoman saying, if you're a man, sit down and shut up. You're inherently bad. How freakazoid is all this? But, oh, if you're women that Bill Clinton settled lawsuits with for rape, or you're Hillary Clinton that was famous for representing child molesters, what she chose to do out of college, and bragged that she knew they were guilty of raping little girls until their cervixes were smashed out, that's okay.
This is going to get taken down from YouTube,
or if you want to
without a
fund
doubt.
radical jihad taking over, that's okay as well. But we're going to get Mr. Graves on the broadcast, but here's Paul Joseph Watson's piece on it.
Yet another example of communist China's social credit score arriving in the West. Michale Graves, former vocalist of the iconic punk band The Misfits, had his sold-out shows at next month's Up and Downtown Music Festival in Edmonton cancelled. Why? Did he commit a grave crime? Is he the latest victim of the Me Too movement? Did he fall terribly ill? No, he retweeted Paul Joseph Watson. That's right, Graves' shows were cancelled because he retweeted yours truly, InfoWars, Breitbart, and defended, oh, wait for it, he defended free speech. The festival's artistic director, the guy who cancelled him, Brent Oliver, said this: it's the support of Alex Jones. If you go in through his tweets and replies, he's tweeting at Hillary Clinton, calling her a criminal. He's retweeting some British right-wing dude that I don't even want to know his name. And that's me. It's all, again, it's so close to the son of guys like Richard Spencer, president of the white nationalist think tank National Policy Institute, that I just don't feel comfortable with it. I should also be clear, Oliver says, this is not about politics. Oh, yeah, right. I understand conservative politics, but this is not conservative politics. To me, this is alt-right hate, and that was the feeling of the board and contrary to our policy, so we removed him. But wait, neither I or Alex Jones are alt-right. I make videos attacking the alt-right. So yes, it is about politics, and yes, you cancelled his gigs because he's a conservative and you're an intolerant moron. This is what Michale Graves, the singer, said. I'm in the game of raising people up and giving them a victorious attitude and telling them it's okay to be you and to be strong and to believe in themselves and the people around them. I want to lift people up. I'm not looking to tear people down. Sounds pretty hateful to me. So once again, we see conservatives being socially and financially punished because of their political beliefs. Because, God forbid, should any celebrity stray out of line and be allowed to hold diverse opinions, no, they must be punished. You know, a similar thing happened to the American tennis player Tennis Sandgren, who was also subjected to a media inquisition merely for following some right-wingers on Twitter. Thou shalt not attempt to deviate from our monoculture. Thou shalt not be allowed to express independent thought. Because we're so tolerant, so progressive. Listen, I've lost count of the amount of people who tell me, either in person or online, both celebrities and non-celebrities, in journalism, in Hollywood, in sports, in business, how they're all terrified of letting slip their conservative political beliefs because they know they'd be hounded out of their careers. This is the de facto communist Chinese social credit score being implemented in the West. Conservatives, libertarians being socially ostracized, financially sabotaged, and having their careers jeopardized simply for daring to think for themselves. Being refused financial services, being refused bank accounts for engaging in hate. What constitutes hate? anything that challenges far-left progressive dogma. This is where we're at. This is the culmination of contrived moral panic and frenzied political hysteria. If you want to support the Misfits vocalist Michale Graves, he's playing at an alternate venue in Edmonton,
Michael.
one that actually supports diversity of thought.
And we sold
God
it out.
forbid.
And it was
Details are in the
it was
description.
incredible.
Oh, and if you didn't know, this is my second channel that you watch.
All right, so there you go. That's part of Paul Watson's report. So the former lead singer of the Misfits, banned from a major music festival for retweeting Alex Jones and Paul Watson because we're all Nazis. Even though anybody that knows Nazis don't like us because they want to own the right wing. No, liberty owns the right wing. So get that through your stinking heads. I hate black racists, white racists, all you idiots. But it doesn't mean I'll kiss your butt if you're a brown racist trying to get in my face. I'll tell you I think you're a piece of crap.
Okay. So there it is. And then we get to up to 2020. We'll wrap this up here so I can get my family to bed. All right. So now we're up to 2020. And that was what you just saw, sort of the beginning of the beginning of the end, which is the name of the tour that I was on. It was called The Beginning of the End, and the record that I released. And I also had Radio Deadly. Had been started in the 2000s, and it was being broadcast, and it was awesome. I built a podcast audience that had thousands of listeners around a show I'd called Radio Deadly that started in the early 2000s, broadcasted weekly on a college radio station in Canada. It could be heard terrestrial and online. Radio Deadly and other properties of mine were growing and would have thousands of live and archived views. June of 2020, America was divided, angry, chaotic, violent. It was the second most destructive period of local unrest in the United States history after the 1992 Los Angeles riots. During the lockdown of America, my job was deemed essential. It was so were many others. And my ability to carry on touring, which was my main source of income, was no longer allowed and no longer possible. I quickly began to pivot to other ways to produce content, carry on my business, perform, and earn. Shortly after the death of George Floyd, there were waves of protests. People were hurting opinions and experiences and judgment about the merits of someone's ability to even take part in a debate because of their experience or color of their skin was in question. I suddenly found myself on the receiving end of a barrage of seemingly unending angry people bombarding me through online communications, phone calls, messages, and texts with threats, insults, and an array of other things. There were calls again from my cancellation and my banishment from music. I was being attacked because I didn't participate in Blackout Wednesday. I didn't put a black box on my Instagram, my social media site profile pictures. I was vocal and articulate in my opposition to it as I was broadcasting and interacting with thousands and thousands of listeners. I was in opposition to this effort called Blackout Tuesday. I was in opposition to this effort because it was expressly executed to show total support for and stand in solidarity with today's music industry in support of the National Black Lives Matter movement. I was fundamentally against the core mission of the National Black Lives Matter movement being led by Patrisse Cullors and others. They were women who were admittedly trained Marxists who were raising and receiving tens of millions of dollars in donations, over $90 million by 2020. Remember the things that I was saying in Conservative Punk. Remember the things that I wrote. There was war on the streets. War that I had predicted would come to fruition, violence and cultural confrontation. I'd been writing about, warning about, talking about for 20 years, right? I was pointing it out. I refused to apologize for having a different opinion. Everything again was attacked. I had seen and heard what the Proud Boys were doing from media and from what other people told me. The Proud Boys at this point were being led by Enrique Tarrio, created by Gavin McInnes. Joe Biggs was heavily involved in leadership and tone. I knew Joe. Joe Biggs and I traded ideas on how to help one another find work, expand our efforts to provide for our families, use our skill sets to build upon. I appeared on his podcast. I listened to their opinions. I respected what the Proud Boys were doing in opposition to groups like Antifa and the ideology and anger that drives that movement. A movement like Antifa, which is a militant, offensively violent, and overt in its acceptance of violence as a means to further their goals, and admittedly in total opposition to what our nation, I believe, is constituted on. A movement that raised, and about the violence, I have quotes right here from people like, I forget what band he's from, Barnett. If people, quote, if people want to talk about the heritage of American culture and our patriotic destiny fits in, where does it say? Here. He says, quote, violence works. When I was younger, my friends and I used to beat the shit out of Nazis. That would roll out to punk shows in California, and guess what? They leave and never come back. Violence works, he says. I don't agree with that in that context. A movement that also rejects history and projects its own evils upon it to justify their actions and their rhetoric. A movement that was working with other groups that violently attacked businesses, buildings, churches, police, people, and institutions for weeks and then months, doing billions of dollars in damages. I wasn't part of that group. I wasn't part of that group at all. I wanted to be part of the group, and I was, that protected the people that were being attacked, and innocent businesses and old ladies. The Proud Boys were in direct opposition to all of this antagonism, provocation, violence, destruction, and rhetoric. The group got very political. It's just a totally different thread, but it's the truth. The Proud Boys were standing up for and defending the things Antifa and others were tearing down and attacking physically, philosophically, spiritually, politically, culturally, personally. In the midst of all this, I put a picture on Instagram of me doing this. Everybody freaked out. Accounts that were the cornerstone of my business, I was no longer able to reach the hundreds of thousands of people my Facebook was taken down, Instagram was taken down. I could no longer reach hundreds of thousands of people, in some cases millions, with advertising on the platforms that I could previously reach. My band quit, along with all of my other business partners and friends. Spare a few. I was blacklisted professionally, personally. I lost friends, family. My business was burned to the ground by all of this. And as it was burning, the destruction was being cheered. It was being cheered. Everything was taken down. So that picture comes up, and a friend of mine called me up who was a Proud Boy. I wasn't in the group. I knew a couple of people that were in the group, but I wasn't. And he's like, you want in? And I said, what are you talking about? He said, you want into the group? I said, the Proud Boys? He's like, yeah. And at this point, I had nothing. Like, my Facebook was gone. Instagram was gone. Everybody was freaking out, man. And I was like, all right, yeah, let's do this. I looked at it like I could come in and, I'd be associated with that group. I'd be one of them. And a lot of young men at this point were joining, so I could be a good influence on them. I'm Christian, born again, saved by the blood of Jesus. I could talk to them about Jesus. I could talk to them about music. I could play music for them. I know that there's other talent in there. I could mine the groups for talent and turn energy into art, music, entertainment. That's what I do. And so I went on this podcast with Enrique and Joe and all these people. And I did the whole, Western chauvinist, proud this and that. And I say the thing, boom, you're a Proud Boy. And then there's second degree and third degree and all this other stuff. Let's jump to January 5th and January 6th. All right. It's not like I went to meetings with the Proud Boy. I didn't there was no rituals where I'm going around to a burning pyre, and it wasn't like that. I wasn't involved like that. I wanted to be an inspiration, and just like, even whether I'm in that group, I'm not in that group. That's integrity. I'm the same inside. I'm the same in that group as I am on the stage. I'm that guy. I'm still on that mission, truly trying to save that guy that's in the stairwell. Okay, so now everything's gone. And January 5th, January 6th. So in the early December. Now, remember, I'm an EMT. In early December, a bunch of Proud Boys go out to Washington, D.C. and get into a fight with Antifa. A bunch of people get stabbed. It was a bad scene. A woman got stabbed. I think Enrique got stabbed. A bunch of people got stabbed. It was bad. It was bad. I had been saying it for 20 years, but here we are. Now I'm an EMT. So one of the things I was also planning and actively working to do is because these guys were going out on the street and all hell was breaking loose. God forbid somebody gets shot, somebody gets stabbed, someone already had been stabbed or gets hit with a bat or whatever. I wanted to teach these guys first aid so that they can help each other or help somebody that needed help, maybe save someone's life. It was getting that bad. I wasn't looking to go out and hurt anybody. I didn't want any part of violence whatsoever. I want to work against that. I was working to lower the temperature, get people to talk and communicate, bridge the gap through music, art, entertainment. But I was attacked viciously. So Stop the Steal rally, it comes up. It's going to be January 6th. This is after the Ameripalooza tour that I went on. I was going to show you some footage, but I'm really short on time. I told you that I was going to show you some of the footage. So this is January 5th at the Stop the Steal. Right? No, that's not it. This is it. Okay, so this is the early afternoon of January 5th. And me and another, I don't want to say who it was. I know he wouldn't mind, but I just don't. You never know. So me and my buddy, my right hand man, my dude, here we are, January 5th. We come out. We just wanted to see what was happening. We had our cameras, as you can see. I jump into the frame here. Here I am. I got my backpack. It was freezing cold. We wanted to talk to people. We wanted to hang out. We wanted to use our cameras, as you can see, get pictures. We have all sorts of pictures and videos of that day. It was awesome. When we got there that night before, see, I'm doing the thing. When we got there the night before, Enrique Tarrio had been arrested. And there was just this weird vibe that came over me. And it seemed very strange. So that put everything into disarray, especially, obviously, regarding Proud Boys. And I wanted to see the InfoWars people. I wanted to see the speakers that were on that stage that I was just showing. That stage right there, Roger Stone, Alex Jones, Owen Schroyer spoke at that stage. I forget who else was over there, but I wanted to see that. So that night, the night before January 5th, the night before that video that I showed you, and Enrique, so early in that day, me and my buddy, my right hand man, somebody had called me up and put me in touch with Rufio, because I couldn't find anybody. I didn't know what was happening. I'm gonna go fast here. I didn't know. So I got in touch with Rufio, spent the afternoon with him, and the plan was to afterwards to come back to the Airbnb that was rented for everybody, and I was going to play a concert for everybody, just keep everybody there at the Airbnb. But obviously things went sideways. Now, I was also involved in playing, which is here, as you can see. And this is like at the beginning. Things were so crazy. This is the morning of January 6th. Look, the chord's all messed up. They're still building the stage behind me. We were supposed to be all the way on the other side of where we are here near the Senate building. And when we got there, where the original site of this part of the rally was supposed to be, things were all crazy. Like there was supposed to be a stage, nothing was there. So we eventually came here, and as you can see, the stage is being built. It was just, everything was nuts. That's me performing, I think, American Prayer at that point. This is us walking there that morning before what you just saw. It was like this. I don't know the names of these people. There's my buddy. Some of you know who that is. There is the founder, or the Vets for Trump. And we were walking to what we thought was designated for the rally, but then it got moved. So the plan is, after all this, there was going to be the big rally. President Trump was going to speak. Everyone was going to march over to the Capitol. President Trump was supposed to be there. Alex Jones was going to speak. So I wanted to, after all of that, head over to the site that was going to be what I just described. As you can see, it was cold. It was freezing cold that day. Freezing cold. I had like 7 layers on. So by the time this was all over, after, like noon, by noon, I went to my buddy and said, let's get over, because he's got bad knees. We were tired and wet and cold. And so I said, let's get a jump on everybody and head over that way towards the Capitol. And so it's the other side of the Capitol. This was in the morning. This is the morning of January 6th. And as you can see, there's the Capitol, but that's the back side. What happened that you see all the footage and everything from is on the other side of the building. That's the back side of the building, early January 6th. You can see how much police are there. Not much at all. So we decided to get a jump on everybody and start walking over there. And as we're walking up, it was probably 12 something. I don't really know. We get to the corner where we're going to cross the street from like where that is, where that Senate building is. And then you cross the street and the Capitol's right there. And then you have to walk up and around to get to the front of that building. The backside of the footage, of this footage, right? So we had to walk on. Yeah, here comes the Capitol. You got to walk up that street and around to the other side. And we were all the way to the right. Like we were positioned to the right of the Capitol on the other side of the street. So as we're walking up that way, funny thing happened. This car, a bunch of cars with their lights on come by. And just the way that people were moving, it was very strange. Something in my gut said, something ain't right. And so I was just like, you know what? I'm cold, tired. My brother's tired. His knees hurt. We had gotten there very, very early. We were planning on going to the Airbnb and playing a show and being up late. So I turn and I go, hey, man, let's just go get the car. Let's just go back to the hotel, warm up, charge our batteries, and we'll meet everybody later. And as we got in the car, and as we were walking in the, as we were walking in the parking garage until we got to the bottom, I could hear, I was listening. Something was happening. Something was happening. By the time we got the truck and made our way to the hotel, we had figured out that there was some sort of riot happening. And my brother was like, yo, man, I think it's early enough to where I'll say that we're not staying here because because we had already decided we got to get out of the city. Because it was like, it was crazy. I think it was the InfoWars feed that I was seeing that it was like, it was insane. Like insanity was happening. So we got out of Dodge, and I went my brother took me to the Exorcist steps, and I went up and down them, went down and then up them. And we got out of Dodge. That's the story. That's the story. That's what I testified to in court. Now I'm going to end with this. I know there's always more that I want to say, but I want to end with this. And then I'll see everybody tomorrow. It's getting late. What's happening to me is important to pay attention to because these incidents of my cancellation are flashes of a totalitarian system maturing and metastasizing. I'm the canary in the coal mine. The people who are doing this to me are the secret police, stormtrooper, brown shirts of past examples of hell that comes to nations, societies, peoples. When this type of fanaticism we see today takes hold of the minds of those that believe, that people are so fanatical about these things that they have no hesitancy and will seek to and participate in the destruction of an individual that does not conform to their beliefs. This thing that is happening in our culture is so radically intolerant to dissident voices that it sees people as morally flawed. The cancel culture kids believe it is ethical and a duty to support or take part in these punitive measures against me. They will support and carry them and against you too. Those are the ones who stand by while you are dragged from your home. These are the people who destroy everything you ever worked for. They are the cowards who walk away from you despite knowing the truth and disgustedly betrayed for selfish self-preservation, the type who wait and hope the monster eats them last. They believe you got what you deserve. They cheer our incarceration and facilitate our death. They will build the gallows and find the ropes. Day by day, the mainstream and legacy media have matured into an almost monopolization of information. From the Pentagon level management, the flow of so-called facts that shape perception and narratives are broadcast into the minds of hypnotized Americans. Information that reinforces their trauma-based points of view that play out in real life. Many of these folks still wear masks and can't tell you why. And I go on from there. So, that's it. I'll see everybody tomorrow. Thank you.